It's thinking, it's thinking, it's thinking. All right, now we got it. Okay, so let me share my deck quick. Make sure we get this captured. All right, so thank you everybody for coming to the next session in a collaboration one track. This is working optimally with external parties. Yeah, not so easy. Christian's going to kind of take us through the content for today. As a reminder, we are recording this meeting. Please mute yourself. If you do have a question, go ahead and raise your hand. We'll call on you, ask you to ask that. Otherwise, just use the meeting chat, please. We'd appreciate that. Live captioning is enabled and it's all interactive, everybody. So please ask questions, add comments. You know, you do a thumbs up, you can applaud, use emoticons, those things in there, that kind of stuff. I'll take that into consideration when we do the $25 gift card. So please throw that information in there, and then don't forget about the grand prize. I'll put the survey link in there again, so you guys have access to that. But make sure you do that before you leave today, the event today, so we can know about the sessions that you went and how you like those, and overall the event. So appreciate you guys doing that, and of course you get involved or get into the grand prize piece, which is the Surface Go. We cannot do anything without our sponsors, so please make sure, reach out to them if you have any needs around consulting or the services that they can provide. So make sure you do that. And of course, the survey, I will throw that out there. And yes, you could actually win that Surface Laptop Go as the prize. So without further delay, I'm going to turn this over to Christian and he can start talking about his session. So thank you, Christian.
Thank you very much. I will start my PowerPoint, and you should see it now.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you.
Oh, that's great. And this is the starting slide. Yeah, welcome to my session. I would like to see questions from you. As Ron said, raise your hand, put the questions into the chat. I have it open, I will see them. And if you don't want to raise your hand or type in, unmute your mic and talk to me, it's all okay. I will speak about working with external parties in Office 365. I will talk about the user view. So what is the benefit for the user in the different ways of communicating and collaborating with external parties. And I also will talk about the admin view. What is the governance in the methods to communicate and collaborate? Where's the security? How can you enable it and disable it? So you're welcome to follow this session if you're a user, and you're also welcome to follow this session if you're an admin. For the users, I apologize. You can make a little break on the admin section and go then on the next user session. Some words about me. Christian Decker, I came from Austria. You know that this is the land without kangaroos. So English is not my native language. I apologize if you cannot understand my English very well. I work with Microsoft for the last 25 years. I always worked for the best Microsoft partners in Austria, and I worked 9 years for Microsoft. And these 9 years helped me a lot to understand Office 365, because Microsoft built the tool in the way they need to use it. And there is a lot of the Microsoft DNA in the product. So if you ever worked for Microsoft, you will understand Office 365 much better than if you never worked for Microsoft. My topics are Microsoft 365, security, governance, and user adoption. I have a blog, derdecker.at. Sorry, it's German, but you can translate it. There's a lot content in there, user-based and admin-based. One of my greatest topics in Microsoft 365 is conditional access. I love this product. I host a LinkedIn group. So if you're interested in conditional access, search for the group Microsoft Conditional Access. There's a lot of good content in there. And you find me on LinkedIn and on Twitter. So before I start, I will start with a question to you. You can answer in the chat. You have a lot of possibilities to communicate and collaborate with Office 365 services. Do you have an idea how many ways are there in Office 365 to communicate and collaborate with external people, so people outside of your community? Put your guesses in the chat. I will wait for it, so someone has to put any guesses in. Are there 3, 5, 10, more than 10, 20? Any other guess? Okay, 50. Yeah, you're coming through. I was counting 10 communication options with Office 365 tools. Congratulations to Sue. She has it right. But it's a little bit complicated. For example, a forms is not really a way for a communication for me. And I recognized half an hour before the session that Gemma is also a possibility to make an external Gemma network. And I didn't put Gemma in here. So let's start with this 10 communication options. And I will go through all of these options from an user point of view and from an admin point of view. We will look what is the advantage, what is the disadvantage, and how you can control the communication, and if there's any special license need. So start with send mail, the good old mail, and I heard that there are still people out there that are using mails and sending mails. The easy point is everyone has an email address. You can send a mail to everyone in the world. This is an asynchronous communication, so if I send a mail to you, it does not matter if you're online or offline, you will get the mail. I can send a mail to more than one person. I can send a mail to you in CC, also in BCC, and I can put documents in the mail and duplicate these documents. So if I send a Word file to 5 people, I have 6 Word files, and if every of these 5 people edit the document and send it back to me, I have 6 documents. And if I reply to a mail, the original mail is included in most of the cases. So mail is really business critical, and mail is the way we communicated in the last 10, 15, 20 years. But the low side of mail is everyone is getting way too much mails. It's hard to don't oversee any mails in the inbox. I try always to have an empty inbox, and believe me, that's not so easy. From an admin point of view, I will not go to the security of emails with spam and antivirus, but of the control of email. Yes, you can control to whom a user can send mails to, and you also can control from whom a user can receive mails. But in the real world, nobody does that. So I don't know any company that restricts emails in this way. So they block some domains where you cannot send mails to or receive mails from. In reality, mail is open and you can send an email to everyone in the world. That's the easy part. One recommendation to email, if you haven't already done it as an admin, there is a recommendation to create a warning if a mail is from outside. You can do it in the Exchange Admin Center if you go to Mail Flow, to Rules, and Add a Rule. You see the screenshot. And there you can say if the sender is external and the recipient is internal, then apply a disclaimer to the email. And for the user, you can use this text for the disclaimer. You can change it. And the user will see a warning if the mail is from someone outside the company. And so this helps to avoid phishing mails a little bit. This is my recommendation for admins. And you see, I will not do any live demos. This is not because I fear the demo gods that makes demos slow if you do it in a live session, but I like it to make screenshot of my demos and put it in the slide deck, because you will get the slide deck, you can download it, and then you will see the demo I have done, and you can follow the steps and go through the steps in the admin portal. This is the reason why I will not do any live demos, but show it here. Thank you, Ali, for the feedback that it's a good point to create this rule. Yeah, this is old stuff. Mail is not really the communication we want to extend in companies. So let's go to the next way. If you use Teams as a phone system, and this is real nice because you can communicate with everyone via the phone. As a user, it's a synchronous communication. So this means the people you want to communicate have to be online and have to take the phone and speak to you in real time. I like it to speak in real time with people, but to be honest, I don't like it anymore to speak on the phone, because there is no way to send you something fast during the call. I cannot say, oh, I sent you the link or I sent you a document. I have on the phone normally only audio, so I cannot see you. And I get so used to the videos because I only do calls via Teams, and I always have my camera on, and most of the people I communicate turn also their camera on, and it's so much better to see the people you communicate. If it's allowed in your company, you can record and transcript the call. If you record the call, your call partner will be informed that you record this call. From an admin point of view, I didn't find any way to prevent the user to call several numbers. You can prevent regions, but I didn't find a way to prevent several numbers. And on the other way, I didn't find a way where you can say this number is not allowed to reach my users. The only thing you can control is if a user can record a phone call or make a transcription out of a phone call. So let's go to the newer products. Let's go to chat, audio call, and video call in Teams. The reason why chat audio and video is on the same slide is because in most cases, you start with a chat and extend the chat to an audio and or a video call. And sometimes you start with an audio call and put a chat during the call. So for me, all the three communications methods are the same. The good thing is you see the status of the person you want to call. You see if the status is red or green or yellow or has the stop sign. We all know that the status is not the real status of the person. So if the person is green, that does not really mean that you cannot chat with the person or that the person is available for you. Because if the person phones on their mobile phone or is speaking to a colleague or is reading something, it can be that the person is green and not available for you. On the other hand, if the person is red, that does not really mean that she is busy. That only means that she has an appointment in her calendar. So if it's red, it could be that you can chat with the person and also make a video call. That's the reason why I always start my communication with a short hi or a ping or something like that. And if I get a response, then I start to let's make a video call or let's make a chat. Or sometimes I say, are you in the office? Let's go for a coffee and speak face to face because face to face is always the best. Chat is also an asynchronous communication, but it's more synchronous than email. I know a lot of people use mail to chat, but I have sometimes chats over several hours. So I chat with my colleague and I get 2 hours later back an answer from him and then I send him. But normally chat is something where you uh, have short time frames between the answers. Yeah, and I like on chat that you can send text messages, links, pictures, that you can share your screen and say, hey, look at my screen and help me and so on. That is a real advantage in chat. One tip if you're chatting, if you put the name of the external party into your to field in Teams, sometimes you will see that there are two objects that appear. I apologize that some of my screenshots contain German words. It's not always easy to switch everything to English. So this an means to, and this means guest, and this means external. There is a big difference between a guest and an external user object. If you invite someone to your Teams, or if someone else invited in your company an external party to a team, then a guest object in your Office 360 environment is created. And if you make a chat with a guest, the external people will will not get the notification about the chat in their Teams client because normally they are in their environment with their Teams client. They have to switch the tenant in Teams to your guest tenant, so to your tenant, to see the notification and to chat with these external people. So my recommendation is if you use chat with external people, always enter the whole email address and always choose the external, because with the external, you chat directly with the Teams client where the user normally works. From an admin point of view, there are two different settings. If you look in the Teams Admin Center, you find the guest access and the external access. And it's not always clear for some admins what is the difference between a guest access and the external access. And this is the same you see in the slide before. Guest access is the chat with guest objects, and external access is the chat with external users. Here, you as an admin can say, I don't allow chat with external people, or you can say, I allow chat with all of the external people, or you can say, I allow it only with selected domains, or I don't allow it for selected domains. So here you can control very in detail what do you allow and what do you not allow. You can also control if your company is allowed to chat with private Teams accounts, so the Teams in Windows 11, and you can control if it's allowed to chat with Skype users, so the consumer product before Teams came out. Video conference. So that's what we are doing. Video conference, you can, as a user, you can invite everyone. So the people you are invite do not really need an email address, because if you save the link to an USB drive and you give the USB drive to someone, this person can access your meeting also. So you only need the link to the meeting to access your meeting. The only way to control who has access to your meeting is the waiting area. So you can configure in your meeting options if everyone can go to your meeting, or if everyone has to wait in the meeting area, in the waiting area, and you invite the people to your meeting. If the external party joins your meeting, he needs an Edge browser, a Chrome browser, or a Safari browser. That are the three browsers that are fully supported. It works in other browsers, but there are always some features that do not work in other browsers. I put you the link where you see the details about the browsers the external people need. And yes, I have to say it. If you use one of these browsers, you need a camera to send your video. And yes, you need a microphone if you want to send any audio. And yes, I get this question from an external who told me, you told me that I can access a team meeting with an Edge browser and I have an Edge browser, but I cannot send my video and my audio. And then I asked him, does your camera and mic not work? And he said, no, I do not have a camera and I do not have a mic. Yeah, you need a camera and you need a mic to send video and audio. If you have a video conference in Teams where external people are in, you cannot send a document in the chat. So I'm not sure if you have recognized this. In the moment an external people is in the call, you cannot send any documents. So from an admin point of view, you can allow or deny if anonymous users, so users that are not registered to Office 365 or that do not have a Microsoft account, can join a meeting and can interact with apps in a meeting or can start a meeting. And there is one setting that you should put on in the Teams Admin Center, in the meeting policies, in the default meeting policies. It's allowed per default that people in your tenant can give or request control, but it's not allowed in the default setting that an external participant can request or give control. And I really recommend to turn this on because it's hard for a normal user to understand why in some meetings he can share his desktop and in some meetings he cannot share or give control to his shared desktop. And so put this on. And as always, if you make any change in the Teams Admin Center, you need at least 24 hours that the setting works. So the next point is that you share a document or a folder with an external member. If it's allowed, you can share a document or a folder from Teams in the document session, from SharePoint, and from your file explorer if you use OneDrive and you have synchronized the data from SharePoint / Teams, or if you have OneDrive data in the OneDrive. There are several options if you share something. The option anyone with the link means that anyone that has access to the link can access your data. And that is not a good idea to share data with anyone with the link. Yes, it's very easy. You don't need some email address, but always think if you share your document with me with this option, I can put this link in my Twitter account and tweet it, and all of my 20 Twitter followers can access your document, and you have no control who accesses your data. The option people in my company with the link means that every user in your tenant that has access to the link can access your documents. So that does not mean that if you create this, everyone can access this content without the link, or you will find the data in this shared folder in searches or in Delph, but you need that link and then you can access the data. The best option for sharing is specific people. Here you can add everyone with a mail address. And to show you how it looks if you an external person that get a share link from you, I will show it to you. So we have Melanie. Melanie hates Microsoft. So Melanie uses Firefox on Linux. She has no Office, so no Microsoft Office, and she has no Microsoft account, no Office 365 account. She has nothing from Microsoft. She has Firefox on Linux. And you want to share a document with Melanie. So you go to your OneDrive or to your SharePoint and say share with specific people and enter melanie.noms@yahoo.com. Yeah, you can send a mail to her. That is a demo account. Melanie will get an email, sorry for the German, that you have shared a document with her. She will see the name of the document. She will see the notification that this link will only work with her account. And she has a button open. And now the question is, how does Microsoft know that the user who clicks on this open button is really Melanie? Because Microsoft has no account for Melanie, no username, no password. Microsoft has only the mail address from Melanie. And this is very easy. When Melanie is clicking on this button, she gets a web page with request verification code, and Microsoft tell Melanie that Microsoft has to verify the identity, and Microsoft will send a code to the mail address of Melanie. And if she clicks here, she gets an email. Sometimes the email is in the junk mail folder, so if you don't get it in the inbox, look in the junk mail folder, and she gets a verification code, and then Melanie can put in the verification code, and she will get access to the document. And even on a Firefox in Linux, she can edit this document without any license and without any office also. So this is the view from the external people. So it's really, you can share a document or a folder with everyone that has an email address. And in the moment where Melanie accesses this document, you will get an email with the information that Melanie has used the link you sent to her. So, yeah. The next is, sorry, my animation was not good enough. So we have the specific people, and there is another option, people with existing access. And in some of my workshops I do with my customers, I get the question, Christian, what is this option? What is the option people with existing access? Because normally I do not explain this option. But before you ask, I will explain it to you. The people with existing access is for me the you share the document with me and I forgot the link, can you send it again option. So if someone asks you to send him again the link and you're not sure if you shared it with company or specific people or read access or write access or so, you can go to people with existing access. You get there a link and you can send this link to people that you get this document shared. The benefit of sharing a document instead of sending it with email is that the external people or all people with whom you share this document work on the same document, and the document is not getting duplicated. So if you send this link to 5 people, so in your company and 2 outside of your company, all of the 6 people, 5 you shared and you can work on the same time in the same document, and this is a really great benefit. You, as an admin point of view, you can control the sharing options on a tenant level. You can control the sharing options on a user level for OneDrive, and you can control it on a SharePoint site level. But be careful, you cannot lower security on the user or SharePoint side. So if you, for example, deny the sharing with anyone on the tenant level, you cannot allow it for several users. So the tenant level is always your baseline of security, and you can deny for some users any sharing. You can deny for some SharePoint sites sharings with external parties, but you cannot allow the sharing with anyone if it's not allowed on a tenant level. My recommendation is to deny sharing with anyone in OneDrive and in SharePoint, because this is really dangerous to lose any data. There are some more settings on sharing. You see, you can limit the external sharing by domain if you need it to. There is one setting that is on per default, allow guests to share items they don't own. I recommend to disable this, because this means if you share a folder with me as a guest, I can share this data with other people without asking you, and this is not the idea. You have also an option where you can disable the guest access to a site or to a OneDrive after a number of days. I would recommend to put in here 60 days or something like that, because normally if you share something with external people, 60 days is enough, and then the sharing should stop. And you have also the options to configure the default. If a user says share, what are the default options the user will get? And here is my recommendation to put in the lowest security, the highest security, the lowest possible way to share. And the lowest possible way to share is the view permission, and that the user have to specific people to whom the data is shared to. The default is only people in your organization and edit. So change it to specific people and view. The user can change it. So this is only the default for the user. But in this way, the user have to put an action to share something where the external people can edit the data. And you can control the sharing. This report is relatively new. So you have in the SharePoint Admin Center under reports, the data access governance, and here you can control the usage of anyone links, the usage of people in your organization links, and the usage of specific people links shared with external people. The report takes a while until it's ready, but then you see up to 100 sites with the highest number of sharing links in the last 30 days. And this is a really nice report if you want to control the shares of your people. Now we come to the other side. Is there any way to control, or how does it look if you access a shared folder in an external Office 365 tenant? So if someone shares a folder with you, the data is in the guest tenant. So you can exit it, you can work with the data in the same way as you work in your own tenant. You can synchronize the shared folder to your PC via the OneDrive client. And if you want to have an overview over all the shared data that is shared with you, you can open your OneDrive in the browser. And here you have the shared section, and you see shared with you all of the folders that are shared with you. So be careful. I think I put it to the admin view. Be careful. The data is in the guest tenant. So the people who shared the folder with you has the control of the data. So if you work on a document and you need this document for your governance or documentation, be aware that the sharing can always be stopped. And if you have not synchronized the data, you will lose any access to the shared information. On an admin point of view, I didn't find any way that an admin can control access to shared folders in an external tenant. So if you know any way how I can control, report, or allow or forbid access to shared folders or documents in external tenants, please let it know. I didn't find any way. So now we come to the fun part. I invite someone to my team to work with him or her in my team. From a user point of view, if it's allowed from my admin, I can invite everyone that has a mail address. If the person has a business mail address, so an own mail domain, and the person you invite do not have a Microsoft 365 account, the person will get a sign from Microsoft, yeah, hi, and it's written in a very small font. We created an Microsoft 365 account for you. Please give me a password. And it's very funny because you do not have to repeat your password. So it's only one password field. And I saw that if you ask people if they are aware that they created an account with this dialog, they say, no, I logged into my email. So this is really nice done from Microsoft, from a Microsoft stand of view. So if you invite someone that has the email address deckerhome.at, and this person has no Microsoft 365 account, Microsoft creates a Microsoft 365 tenant with the tenant name deckerhomeat.onmicrosoft.com, creates a user account for you, and you give the password, and then you have a Microsoft 365 account. Most of people don't know that they have a Microsoft 365 account. Not on the slide, but I want to mention it. If the user has a Gmail address or a Yahoo address or something like that, Microsoft will create a Microsoft account, so the former live account, and use this account for the access to the team. If you invite someone to your team, the data is under your control, the data is in your tenant, and the external people can work in the teams in the same way as your colleagues can work. The guests have nearly the same rights in the team. There is one difference. A guest cannot become an owner of a team. So owner is only allowed for members, for people in your tenant. But for the normal work, it's the same as guest than as member. From an admin point of view, I think there are 7 or 8 or 9 points where you can configure the access of guests to your tenant. So there is really a lot of possibilities for you to control it. There are some settings on a tenant level. So you have in the Azure portal the guest invite settings. Here you can control who is allowed to invite guests to your tenant. Normally, it's on anyone in the organization. I recommend to put this on member users and users assigned to specific admin roles, so that a guest cannot invite other guests to your tenant. You can allow or deny selected domains. So, for example, you can say, I allow invitations from Microsoft.com, and I deny registrations, invitations from Apple.com, for example. Most of my customers do not use this option. Only banks and highly regulated companies restrict this on a domain base. New is in Asia that you can also control the inbound and outbound collaboration with guests on a domain base in the inbound access settings under external identities in the Azure portal. Here you have the B2B collaboration, and here you can allow or deny also domains. So in the moment you have two options to allow or deny guests from several domains. In the external identities, you can also select applications. You can control.
There's actually a question in the chat from Jason. That's a pretty long one.
Thank you.
Yep. Yeah. Go ahead and take a look at that.
Thank you. Yeah. 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 The question is that companies add external users to their internal directory and sync them to Office 365. And I think they configure them as guests in Office 365. Yeah, I do not really recommend to add a user to your local Active Directory until you need access for the external people to your local Active Directory, but not for the collaboration in Office 365. And there are two reasons for this. If you add the user to your environment, you are responsible for this user. So the password of this user is in your tenant. And if the user forgot his password, he has to call you to change your password. And there's always the question, where do you know that the user who calls you and says, hey, I forgot my password, is really the user that owns this account? The second reason why I do not recommend this is if the external user changes his company, so he goes from Microsoft to Apple, you will not recognize this, and the user has still access to your company, even he is not longer in the company where you think he is. And that's the reason why I always recommend to use guest accounts for access to Office 365, because the password is in the domain where the user object is really located. And if a user leaves his company, the company will disable the user object and the user has no longer access to your tenant. And you see all people that you sync from your Active Directory to Office 365 are members. There is no difference between an external or an internal member. You can change the type of a member to a guest, but really, I do not recommend it. In reality, I think the user needs a license to access Teams, and you do not need licenses for guests if you have lower than 50,000 guest access, active guests in a month. So do not use this. I can do a whole session about guest management and how you can gather guests and how you remove guests that are not longer active. So this is always much fun for me to discuss this with my customers. Did I answer the question? Okay. Yeah, back to the Teams Admin Center. You can allow or deny guest access in Teams on a tenant base level in the admin portal. And we do not recommend to do it here, because if you do it here, it's done. There is no way to add any guests to a Teams because if you deny it here, you cannot change it. There is also a setting in the admin portal regarding Microsoft 365 groups. You know, if you create a team, Microsoft always create a Microsoft 365 group, and a team is always based on a group. So there are two ways to configure it. One is in teams and one is in groups. It's the same if you disable it here, then you cannot make any exceptions. You can disable it for several teams. Our recommendation is that you use sensitive labels, because sensitive labels is, in our point of view, the best way to control access from external people to a team or to a Microsoft 365 group. We always create two external labels, one internal and one external group. We go to the compliance portal, click on label, create label, and create a sensitive label with internal, with some descriptions and the label color. Configure groups and sites. Do not configure anything here. And for the external label, enable the external sharing and conditional access settings and the privacy and external user access settings. You have to enable these two in both labels, and here you can control if you allow that guests are added to the Microsoft 365 group. Here you can control the privacy, so public and private teams. Yeah, the managing of team access, I have a recommendation for this. Kessler is asking the frequency of controlling external guests in your teams. You can do this with an E5 license, and there are several tools that control this. Normally, it's a good point to control it on a quarterly base, but if you're a high regulated company, it's also good to control it on a monthly base. I hope this answers your question. So here you configure the sensitive label, and then you configure the external label in the same way, except that you allow the external user access, and then you have to publish the labels to all users. And then you can set the default label for a team. And if a user creates a new team, he gets in the creation dialog the sensitivity, and the sensitivity is per default internally, and the user can change it to externally when he creates the team. And I like it very much that the users see in the teams in the right corner if the team is internal or external, and this is a good security and governance tool. Some other best practices always enforce a second factor for the guest users. Restrict the access for guest users to your Active Directory. So you can do it in the Azure portal. You have here the guest access, and do not allow guests to invite other guests. We have this setting already, and do not allow the sharing of objects they do not own. Some customers need more governance on guest access. We looked at a lot of tools out there for guest access management. we select solution to share as our favorite because the external user manager is easy to use for the users and the admins and has a lot of good features to governance the guest access, more features than Microsoft provides. So let's look on the other side. You get invited to a team in another tenant. Be always aware that the data resists in the guest tenant. So if they remove you from the team, you have no longer access to the guest tenant. And you have to change the organization in your Teams client to access the team in the other tenant and to see the notifications in the team of the other tenant. And the best practice is if you are a guest in an external tenant, open Teams in your browser and change the tenant in the browser, because then you can work in your Teams client in your tenant with your Teams. And you always have access to the guest team and you get the notifications and also the chats in the browser for the guest teams. You can open more than one browser, and so if you're in a lot of external teams, you can open that. Ali, thank you very much for the access reviews for guests. This is the E5 feature. So I think it's AD Premium P2 for the reviews for guests in all teams. From an admin point of view, there is no report where you see in which teams or organizations your users are guests. I know that Microsoft is working on this report, and I hope they get this report in a short time frame, because this is a lot of customers need this report. You can control now to which organizations your users can be invited, but be careful to do this only on a new tenant, or if you do it on a tenant that still exists, inform your users, because in most cases you will block any collaboration with external people with that. Yeah, and the good point is also if someone leaves your company and you disable the user account of this user, he can not longer access any data in guest tenants because his user is blocked. So now we come to the last 2 points: share channel and get invited to a shared folder. This is the newest way to communicate, to collaborate with external people. So the shared channel, I hope everyone knows the shared channels. The shared channel is the same technology as a private channel with the same restrictions, so no planner and so. And you can create in your team a new channel, and you can select shared channel, people you choose from your org or others org that have access. Best practice is if you create a shared channel, the next menu gives you the possibility to enter any names, email addresses from internal or external people to share this channel. My recommendation is to skip this dialog. I will explain it to you why in the next slide. Because if you create a shared channel, skip the next dialog and go then to the options of the channel and say share channel, you get more options to share this channel than to share the channel with people. If you share a channel with people, that means you enter the email address. Yeah, you enter the email address of the people you want to share the channel internally or externally, and the people get a notification, and then the people have in their tenant the name of your team, they see that it's shared from another tenant, and they only see the shared channel that you shared with them. If you share a channel with a team, you have to enter the team owner. The team owner gets a notification that he has to select a team where he wants to put this shared channel in. You get the information in which team the team owner has put the channel, and you have accepted, and then they have a new channel in their teams, but this channel is in the other team. I will show it to you in the last section. As I told you, shared channels has the same restrictions as private channels, so there is no planner, no stream, no forms in a shared channel. That are the applications you can add to a shared channel. From an admin point of view, before anyone can share a channel with external people, you have to configure a cross-tenant access setting for this tenant. That is not the same as a trust in Active Directories. You have to go to the external identities to B2B direct connect. So B2B collaboration is the guest access. B2B direct connect is the way to share channels. And here you have to allow access and allow all users for the inbound session. Inbound session means that an external tenant is sharing that an external tenant is accessing a shared channel. And you can trust MFA compliant devices or hybrid Azure AD joint devices from the external channel. My recommendation is at least to trust the multi-factor authentication compliant device and hybrid Azure AD joint device. You should only trust if you know that the external company has good managed devices. And the outbound sessions in B2B Direct Connect is the access from your tenant to external tenants, so you can control to which tenants your users can access a shared folder. If you go to the team admin center, to the team policies, here you can configure if you allow private channels, if you allow shared channels, and if you allow external users to shared channels, or if you allow the access from your users to shared channels. You can create several policies and allow it only to some users. So this is the way to control it in Teams. The last point, get invited to a shared channel. If you get invited to a shared channel, you get a notification and you see Christian shared a channel with you. You see the name of the team and you see the name of the channel. And then you have in your team list access to the external team, the external channel without, so you do not need to change the company, the tenant in your Teams client. This is, from a user point of view, a really good way to work together with external tenants. Be careful, it's the same, the data resists in the other tenant. So if they remove your access, you do not longer have any access to the data in this channel. From an admin point of view, you have full control which user can access shared channels, and you have full control to which companies the access from shared channels is allowed. So the summary from a user point of view. For quick communications, the chat, audio, and video call has a lot of advantages. It's better than email in most cases, and it's better than a phone call in most cases. So use chat, audio, and video calls as your favorite way to communicate with internal and external people. For a collaboration with external people, in my point of view, the best option is a shared channel. So if you have a project with external people and you have a project kickoff, discuss with all of the project members that you're not sending any emails in that project, but to put all the communication in the post tab in Teams. And if it's a larger project, then share always the channel to a team, not to a person. So if you share the channel to a team in my tenant, I can decide which other people should work together with me on your project. And so you do not have to invite every people from my company. If you just want to share a document and not really want to collaborate and to communicate and to chat with people, then use file sharing. And don't forget, if you access data that is in another tenant, always be aware if the other tenant removes your access, you lose any access to the data. So if you need this data, always backup it to your tenant. From an admin point of view, B2B Connect and shared channels give you the best control and governance for working with external parties. You do not need any guest accounts. You can control which apps you allow. Conditional access is working. So this is really the best way. And I expect that Microsoft will add more and more features and ways to collaborate with B2B Connect. And at last, this is the point I always discuss a lot with the security guys at my customers. You have always find a good balance between security and governance and productivity. I always see security guys that make real secure systems, and the people cannot work with this real secure system and find always other ways to work with external people. So the most secure solution is not always the most secure solution. And that was it. I think I'm good in time. Are there any questions?
Feel free to raise your hand or come off mute if you do have any questions, or throw it in chat and we'll answer those.
If I can.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, as much as you can, yes. Oh, we do have Ali has a question. Go ahead, come off mute.
First of all, let me say good presentation. Thank you for the information you have shared. But my question is, I know you were saying in the presentation, like if on the for guest sharing, like you can, if I understood correctly, you can download the data from the guest tenant or the guest, from the if you're the guest and and there's a document that you want. You can if I understood correctly, you can download that into your own OneDrive.
Yes.
Did I understand that correctly?
Yes.
But what about if they restrict it, meaning like they do view only, like they set it as
sorry. Yeah, I do not go in this detail. If you share a document, you can say view only. And if you say view only, you can say it's not allowed to download. If you share it only with view only, you can download it. But there's an option in sharing where you can say, I can show it to you. I think we have time. So I just have to.
we do. Yep.
So I will share my screen. So if I share, sorry, my client is in German, but I will, you will see it if I share. And if I say here, good morning, it's only view, then I have here restrict download. And if I share it with this option, it's not longer possible for the people to download the document. They cannot do a copy and paste. They can only do a screenshot, but nothing else. But if you don't use this, I can download the data. If you don't want that some of your data is used by external companies without your allowance, then the best way is to use information protection, because with information protection you have much more control over a document. So, for example, if a document is configured only for my company, I can take this document and send it to you, and you cannot open it because you're not working in my company. So information protection is the much better way to control data. Okay?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for the question. Jason.
Hi, Christian. Hey, this is Jason. I left you that longer question before. Thank you for taking the time to answer that. It was probably a little confusing. I think a better way, I'm kind of curious to know what our company is doing right now is, let's say we engage with an external consultant, and I'm not part of our Azure AD or identity team, so I don't really know how they do this, but what I commonly find they do is, so this is a partnership, they're not an employee. They add them to our directory, give them an email with our domain, and then while they're engaged with us, whether that's 2 months, 3 months, whatever, whenever you add them anywhere in M365, they're identified as a member. And so I oftentimes question, are they doing that correctly? Or should they be adding them in a different way? And I think the reason why they're doing it is because they need access to other systems that our Active Directory, I think, is kind of mapped to. So that's the easiest way. But I was just kind of curious if you had any advice about that for external access.
If they put them to your AD and add them to your Exchange server and give them an email address from your company, you will not really recognize that this is a guest in Exchange also. So this is a problem. If this is a consultant that works for 3 months for your company and you want to difference members and guests in Azure Active Directory, there is a way to change the type of a user object in the Azure Active Directory from member to guest. You have to do it via a PowerShell, so there is no GUI for this, but this maybe is a way to mark them, the external consultants, as a guest with all the restrictions that guest users have. So it depends really on the way they are working for you. So if they are in your company and if they work for 3 months, 40 hours a week in your company, maybe you should treat them as an employee. But if you want to difference, there's the way in Azure Active Directory that you change the user type of these members to a guest.
Yeah, because I always even wonder too, so does that mean that if that consultant is doing that with multiple companies, does that mean they have multiple licenses? So they have 3 versions of maybe
Yes.
the E3 license
Yes.
because each company
Yes.
has to assign it, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that's right.
That's
That's
kind of
right.
interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. But this is really nothing you can really answer in 5 minutes. There are so many dependencies, so many types of working together with external parties, with access to local applications and access to cloud. This is really, there are really many ways, and you cannot really say that this is the wrong way and this is the best way. Every way has its advantages and the disadvantages, and that it's the flexibility in the cloud, and that makes really a lot of fun in the discussions.
Okay, thank you, Christian.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Yeah, please fill out the feedback. I always like feedback. Tell me what I can do better next time, and then I give it back to Don. Thank you. Don, you're on mute. The word of the year 21, you are on mute. No, I cannot hear you. You're not on mute, but I cannot hear you. Can anyone hear Don? No, okay. So I'm not the only one. Okay, I see that you're not on mute. Ah? Say
Yeah,
something?
that's micro
Yeah.
speakers. Let's see if my other
Yeah.
device is still working.
Now you can, now we can hear.
Check. Yes, good. All right, good. Anybody else have any other questions? Raise your hand, please, quickly. Otherwise,
Where did you get your background of your team meeting?
oh
That's
gosh, I
nice.
don't know where I got that one. I like this one. It was around, I think probably about a year and a half ago. I think they were kind of making the rounds, and it was out. Was it out on? It could have been out actually on the team's background site.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd say go look there and see. All right. Well, I think that's it for questions. Thank you, everybody, for doing that. Make sure you do the survey. And the next session will be our afternoon keynote with Mark Cashman. So make sure you guys jump onto that link, and appreciate it, everybody. And we may see you again here. Thank you, Christian. As always, good job.
Thank you, and bye and have a good day. Ciao.
All right.